You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
You are listening to the #1 horse podcast in the world. Here's your entertaining look at the horse world and the people in it.
Good morning. This is Ashley Winch in Albuquerque, New Mexico for Monday, June 10th, episode 3450 by Worm Flooring. Good morning, Horse World.
You heard that right. It's Monday. The first day of a fabulous week of shows on Horses in the Morning. So saddle up and ride along. We promise to help you get through your week.
Glenn and Jamie are on the road today, so we're hopping in the time machine to revisit episode 2863 from May 2021, when Julie Fershtman, author of Equine Law and Horse Sense, joined us to answer listener questions on barn and horse liability. Plus, DeAnn from Horse Nation stopped by to chat about teaching your child sportsmanship and everyone's favorite equestrian first world problems. But first, a few words from our sponsors. Is your floor a disaster zone? Cracked, dusty, and leaking? There's a better way. Let's face it. Traditional floors in trailers, barns, workshops, they take a beating. They crack, they leak, they collect dust like it's nobody's business. And those temporary fixes, well, they never last. Introducing Worm Flooring. Worm Flooring is a sealed system that's easy to clean and maintain. No more back-breaking scrubbing, plus it's slip-resistant, keeping you and your horses safe and sound. And unlike other options, Worm Flooring is built to last. Liquids, no problem. Worm Flooring protects your floor and keeps it looking beautiful for years to come. Don't settle with a floor that's a constant hassle. Invest in Worm Flooring today. Visit Worm Flooring, that's WERM flooring.com. And new from Purina, Systemic. There's more talk than ever about the importance of probiotics in equine health. But not all probiotics are created equal. New Purina Systemic Supplement remains live and active after the pelleting process and throughout the digestive system, making it all the way to the hind gut. Systemic was designed to support normal recovery after exercise and occasional gastrointestinal stress. Whether you're using a probiotic now or not, it's time to use a live and active supplement from a name you trust. New Purina Systemic Probiotic. Now let's get on with the show.
Good morning, everybody. I am Glenn the Geek in Ocala, Florida.
And I'm Jamie Jennings in Norman, Oklahoma, and you're listening to Horses in the Morning on the Horse Radio Network for May 17th, episode 2678, brought to you today by Chem and Equine. Good morning, horse people.
It's Monday.
Monday is my favorite time of year.
This is Horses in the Morning with your lovable hosts, Jamie Jennings.
I am the queen. You listen to me.
I'm sorry that people are so jealous of me, but I can't help it that I'm popular.
Glenn the Geek.
You look especially radiant today, Your Grace.
I'm going to do a terrific show today because I'm good enough, and doggone it, people like me.
Happy Monday.
Hey, Jamie, there was a race over the weekend. Do you want to hear it?
I would love to. It was so good.
In line, we're ready for the start. They're off in the Preakness, and Medina Spirit broke very well again today, and so did Midnight Bourbon. And so the two of them are right together in concert. Tour is third on their outside as they race by us the first time. A very headstrong Francisco de Ina is next, then Crowded
By the way,
Tree.
if they'd finished
Risk
right
taking
now,
in behind them.
my
Ram on the
trifecta
inside of
would have won.
Rombauer, and then Unbridled Honor, and the early trailer is Keep Me in Mind.
Oh, how that
as
works.
the Derby winner, Medina Spirit, leads them through this first quarter mile.
I'm so
and
excited.
Into the clubhouse turn. That first quarter was 23 and 3/5 seconds, and the lead is just a half a length. On the outside, Midnight Bourbon continues to press the pace in second. As they go to the backstretch, these two are 1-2. Then on the inside comes Crowded Trade, and on the far outside, Concert Tour is 2.5 lengths behind as they continue through this half mile in 46.93 seconds. So Medina Spirit's the leader. He's off the rail, though, and Francisco DeAnn has slipped through on the inside. The horse from Japan is only a neck back. Midnight Bourbon is next, and then Rombauer, who's close up, and on his outside comes Concert Tour. So they make their way around the far turn. Medina Spirit and John Velasquez have the lead as Around Ortiz and Midnight Bourbon continue to press 3/4 in 1:10.97 seconds. Francisco DeAnn starts to retreat. Rombauer grabs third. Concert Tour comes up on the far outside, but he's not keeping up at this stage. Midnight Bourbon grabs the lead from Medina Spirit, and they're stride for stride, and they're into the stretch. Medina Spirit fights on the outside. Midnight Bourbon. Rombauer is rolling up to them, coming by the 8th pole. It is now Rombauer storming to the front, taking over from Midnight Bourbon. Medina Spirit has dropped back. Keep Me in Mind is 4th. Rombauer and Flavien Prat win the Preakness, pulling away by 4 on the wire.
My gosh, that horse came out of nowhere. It was so exciting.
It was exciting. It was exciting to see that horse. And he looked littler than the other two when he was, I don't know if he is, but he looked smaller than the other two coming up. Boy, those other two were just going at it from start to finish, and then right there at the end, he faded away. Medina's drugs wore off, and he faded off into existence.
It did. So I was talking to my sister-in-law, who's a doctor, and we were describing picograms, and she's trying to explain it to me. A picogram is like 1/1000th of a milligram. And a milligram is 1,000th of a gram. So
yeah, Bob Baffert basically said, nobody was believing him because nobody believes him right now. But he basically said, this is not enough to do anything to anybody or horse.
Well, it certainly didn't make him win the race.
No.
Granted, you're an idiot because you're putting topical medications on your horse, or your staff is. So that was really stupid. But yeah, it was just really good to have that kind of off the table.
Yeah, I agree. I was so happy actually when he lost, because it was like, because then we have him get eliminated if he does from Triple Crown running anyway, if they take the Kentucky Derby away from him, and then going into the Belmont, it just makes a mess. So this way there's less of a mess. Do you know this horse was 12-1 or 11-1? Rombauer was 11-1, paying $26.50 to win, 10 to place and $5.20 to show. So paid pretty well.
Yeah, and I was reading an article about Rombauer, and the owners were slated to sell him in a sale last year. They were aiming for the yearling or 2-year-old sale. And because of COVID, and they said it was a slowdown in business in the horse racing industry. So their operator advised them to wait and said, just start running him and see what happens. And maybe he'll sell after he runs a few races.
Well, he'll sell now.
He'll sell now.
Yeah, I like the fact that this was individual owners and not a big conglomeration, right?
This is like a couple of just a small breeding operation, so it's
John
really exciting.
and DeAnn Fradkin, apparently. So yeah, it just wasn't one of the big farms. I was so happy to see that.
Yeah.
Well, this is good. I think this was a good turnout or a good result of the weekend.
Do you know what is potentially a good result / not a good result?
Uh-oh. What?
Because I got all like horse racing fever on Saturday because it was such an exciting race. It was really fun to watch. I turned on my TV on Sunday yesterday because I had a couple hours to kill it was just like complete rain here yesterday. So I just had to stay inside. So I turn on TV and I go to the horse racing channel. I don't know if it's TVG. I don't know what channel I was on because we got this new TV system through YouTube TV or some garbage like that. I don't know. One of those apps. And I started watching Belmont. And do you guys remember that there is a website called Equibase, which is how I read and check all the horses that come in. I see all the race history and all the things. And so I started looking at these horses, and there was a horse. Oh my God, he was so beautiful. And his name was Color Me Pazzi, Pazzi, Color Me Pazzi. And he was beautiful, and he was black, and he was in the claiming race. And oh my God, I was like, that's that is the most beautiful thoroughbred I've ever seen. And on Equibase, you can put these horses in your quote virtual stable.
How many did you do on Saturday?
I now have Color Me Posse, Digital Software, Iron Giant, and Molino. And the sad thing is I cheer for them to not win, because like if I put in my virtual stable and it'll show you like when they race or when they work out, or if they're not doing anything, you can contact the trainer, the owner, and just be like, "Hi, I think it's so pretty." So I put those for, and then Color Me Posse won. Digital Software came in second behind Molino. And I think I've got a good shot at Iron Giant. He didn't do too much yesterday. But of course, the ones I thought were the prettiest, which usually if I think they're the prettiest, that means they're dead last because they look like sport horses, not race horses.
Not race horses. And you're pretty good if they're running in claimers. You're not so good if they're running in stakes races. So,
not so good. These were all claimers, but then they were all won. So now they're going to move up to allowance races and then stakes race, all the things. But at any rate,
if you
Chad
hadn't
Brown,
put your name in, they would have lost.
I know.
Lost. Yeah.
Chad Brown is going to get a couple of calls from me because he trains Molino and Digital Software, and I'm gonna need me some Digital Software.
I'm sure he'll be calling you right back on this.
I'm sure he will.
Yes,
I'm sure he will.
Well, Julie Fershtman's coming up today. She's our kind of resident lawyer here, and she wrote a book called Equine Law and Horse Sense, and she's going to answer some listener questions. A very interesting one about barn.
Oh, it's so stressful. This is so stressful.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. That's why we got her on. It was about barn and horse liability, and we're going to talk about that. And and everybody that boards wants to listen to this conversation. Plus, DeAnn from Horse Nation is going to come up, and she's going to talk about teaching your child sportsmanship. And I want to hear that conversation between the two of you because you both have kids that, are having to deal with that now. And some of your questions.
I'll just tell you right now, my angel baby never loses. He's perfect.
And, well, actually, the article we're going to talk about is how you should let them lose.
I know.
So that's going to be interesting. And then a question, first world problems, apparently. You all still have some. So we're going to talk about that as well. But first, we have some daily winnies to get to. Thank you, Daily Winnie Machine. Well, we have some birthdays. Let's see if that works any better.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
We have some auditor birthdays today. Carissa Renee, Rachel Walker, Catherine Cook, and Electro Weeks. Also, Jamie, you'll be happy to know, we have some new auditors, too. Diana Stuckey, Sarah Summers, and Kaylin Schildmeyer. I think I might got that one right. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for supporting us here at the Horse Radio Network. We really appreciate it.
Man, I had some really good news, and now I know why she did it, because it's her birthday. No, this is the new auditor. Sorry. We have an adoption alert. For those who remember, I had a horse come in for training that an auditor ended up pre-purchasing, and he had this weird lump on his leg. And it turns out that
last we knew on the show, he was going to go for surgery.
Yes, he's going in for surgery. You're right. Let me back up a little more. But going in for surgery, and so all of the pre-purchase vet sent all of the X-rays, radiographs over to the surgeon, and the surgeon said, "You know what? Don't actually need surgery. He just needs about 30 days stall rest." It was a fracture.
Surgeon said they don't need surgery?
Yeah.
Wow.
Go figure. No, he's like super well-known surgeon, and he looked at it and he said, this horse just could use 30 days stall rest. So I went back to the people did the pre-purchase, and they passed. And somebody else stepped up. Diana Stuckey, our new auditor, stepped up, and she says, I want that horse. Yeah. So now this beautiful, lovely 3-year-old is going to get this, Glenn, Norco, California, where he's going to go be a trail horse through the streets of Norco.
That's
yay!
Perfect. And Diana, if you don't know, we were invited out to Norco early days, probably second or third year into this show, for a whole week. We did our shows out there. We rode around town. We did all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it was really fun.
We were the celebrity
really
marshals in their parade. I mean, it was good. We had a good time out there. Good job, Diana. See, now, so let's get this right. She donates a little bit of money every month, and now it's going to cost her a fortune.
Pretty much. I think that the shipping the horse to California, and Brendan Nellums could tell us about this because she did it too. Shipping a horse to California actually costs more than the adoption of the horse.
I'm sure it
All
does.
the horses at Horse and Hound are $1,000 no matter what. So that's a pretty good price for a nice, lovely sport horse. But I've told her, I was like, it's going to need 30 days stall rest. She's like, that's fine. I can do it here.
You know that's amazing that somebody is willing to take a horse in that she knows has issues, and she's still willing to do it and do the rehab and be a good Samaritan there. So good for her.
I love it. And she got a darn nice horse. He's so sweet.
And that brings
He's
up
so
to
sweet.
about 100 horses we donated out to listeners too.
I know. I love it. I love it. And I've got 2 more in the wings waiting for theirs. So get in line.
All right,
I'd
good.
like
Well,
mine
let's talk about Kemen. And then I have something that came up in conversation here in the auditor room, speaking of that I was shocked people didn't know about in my equestrian fact of the day.
Cosequin ASU joint and hoof pellets contain quality ingredients to support joint and hoof health and leave out fillers, molasses, and alfalfa, all while delivering the taste horses love. The colors of our ingredients shine through for a difference you can see. Visit CosequinEquine.com.
And now it's time for today's equestrian Who Knew fact of the day. Actually, this is more a who didn't know fact of the day. I thought everybody knew what the ribbons in the tails means. When you put a red ribbon in a tail or a yellow one, or it used to be green and white one too. I thought everybody in the world knew what that meant, but there was a post on the auditor page where an auditor went to a show, had a red ribbon in the tail, and everybody kept coming up on her in the back. She finally had to leave the warm-up ring because so many people were getting so close to the back of her horse. And then a bunch of people commented that they had no idea what this meant. And I guess if you weren't in the show world or the fox hunting world, you might not know. So I thought we'd review it today. You want to review what all the different colors mean?
Let's do. Now, I only, to be completely fair, only knew one of them, but it's the most important one,
Yes.
which is
Stay the hell away.
Going to little local horse shows, up downs, where you're trotting around the arena, walk, trot, canter, halt, back, reverse, walk, trot, canter. And a red ribbon in the tail meant you better stay away from this one because they're going to kick you.
Well, I knew what all of these meant because I think they were more common way back, 30 years ago when I first met Jennifer and started going to horse shows. And I would say, hey, what's that white ribbon mean? What's that one mean? What's that one mean? And I just think that people kind of got out of using them. Where the ribbon tradition started was in England during fox hunting time in the 1800s. So that's where this all got started, at least the red ribbon. That's where it got started. And up until the time when Jennifer was fox hunting every week in Massachusetts when we were there, the red ribbon was a very common thing. So the red ribbon means stay away. My horse is a kicker. Basically, it means if you come up on my horse's tail and your horse gets double planted in the face, that's your problem, not mine, because I warned you with the red ribbon. So if you're in the warm-up ring, like poor Celeste was, and there's 1,000 horses in there getting ready for dressage, and you see a red ribbon, that doesn't mean come right up on the butt of my horse. That means just the opposite. So that's what the red ribbon means. Give them a wide berth because you're liable to get kicked. So, again, there were so many people that posted that they had no idea about that. And I guess if you're a trail rider and never came across it, you wouldn't know. But Jennifer said even the trail riders here use the red ribbons. When she goes out with a group, people know about the red ribbons. I think it would be more important trail riding, right? Because people are usually nose to tail trail riding.
Well, and the thing, too, one of the other ribbons, the green ribbon, is for a young horse. I always said for a green horse, but I would always just nobody knew what the green ribbon meant. And so I would always just put a red ribbon in all of my horses' tails just to be like, please just stay away. This is a baby. Don't do it. Don't come up on it. So that's
put a green and a red, and that really means stay away. You're
young kicker. And then a white one.
They kick really hard. So the white ribbon, I knew this. They used to do this in the day when Jennifer was eventing. A white ribbon means that the horse is for sale. So we used to see white ribbons at the show, and Jennifer said, oh, yeah, that means that horse is for sale, and you can go up and ask him about it. Does anybody do that anymore?
No, because I've been at shows and people just ask about it. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. But that's like an advertisement that it's for sale, you know?
Yeah.
You see it going around the dressage ring and you go, I really like that horse. You know,
do you think
it's for
that the
sale.
other horses are like, oh, poor guy. Like his owner's riding him and doesn't even want him.
Making fun of him. I think they're actually making fun of. Do you think they're envious of the red ribbons going, God, I wish I was a kicker?
Oh, that poor guy. His mother doesn't even love him.
Now,
I'm trying to get rid of him.
So green means young. Yellow means stallion. And did you know that one? I don't think I ever came across a yellow.
I don't know. There were never a lot of stallions in the horse shows that I would go to, and you don't see many stallions eventing. Yeah, I feel like I would always know if it was a stallion because, you know, it'd be like screaming and big and showing its parts. I don't know.
So basically we have red ribbon, everybody stay away. Stallion, mares stay away. Green means my horse is going to run off if you come up on my butt. You probably won't be in trouble, but I'll be bolting. And then white means I'm ready for this thing to go to your barn. So there we go.
So yes, what do these actually mean? This one will kick you. This one will mount you. This one will bolt with me. And then the other one is this one needs to get the hell out of
my barn. Yeah, it's going to be a really bad ad by Friday. I'm going to post that. There's actually a color graphic chart that we'll use as our picture of the day. But again, I didn't realize that people didn't know what these were. So consider yourself educated.
I wish I could French braid as well as these photos because it's a really nice tight braid. I can't even braid.
All right. And by the way, the ribbon doesn't have to be 12 feet long either. It doesn't have to be dragging the ground. It just has to be, visible so that people can see it in the tail. Let's hear about WinTech, and then we're going to go to our first guest of the day.
Coach Jen here, HRN Chaos Control Officer and host of the Horse Tip Daily Show here on Horse Radio Network. Longtime Horse Radio Network fans know that I'm a big fan of WinTech saddles. I've been riding in them for about 20 years now. Whether I'm eventing, showing in dressage, or fox hunting, or hitting the trail at an endurance competition, I know my saddle fits my horse, and it's going to hold up to the toughest conditions and look great doing it. You may be wondering exactly which saddle do I use for this varied group of disciplines? Well, WinTech makes saddles for every discipline. That's how. I have several. And WinTech doesn't sit on their laurels. So head out to your local tack store and have a sit in one. Or you can contact your favorite online retailer, arrange a test ride, or check them out online at wintechsaddles.us.
Well, Jamie, there was some news, Olympic news, that came out just this morning, broke right before the show, and that is show jumping champion Eric Lamaze out of Canada has withdrawn for consideration from the Olympic Games. Now, they're not doing a team this year. They didn't qualify to have a team, so they were allowed to send one individual, and they have 5 athletes that have been shortlisted, and he was one of the obviously predominant ones. But he withdrew because of health reasons, and I kind of forgot about this. Do you remember a while back we talked about the fact that they found out he had a brain tumor and has been undergoing treatment for that? Well, he's still been showing and doing his thing. This was 3 years ago that they announced that, believe it or not. And I kind of forgot because he's been showing, he's been winning, he's been doing his thing up there in Canada, but he's still undergoing treatment for this brain tumor. And he decided that, or his medical team, and he decided that it wasn't worth the risk to go to Tokyo. A lot of stress and being away from his medical care that long, in Tokyo. So he just decided not to go. And he cited as a second reason, and remember, he led the Canadian team to a silver medal at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, and he went on to win the individual gold. He was riding Hickstead, so he won the gold in 2008. But then the team with him leading it came in 4th in the 2016 Olympic Games. So they've done pretty well with him leading the way. But he also said that I don't really want to go if there's not a team going. I go because I like being part of the team.
Aww.
I don't want to go as an individual. So, there was a lot of considerations there, but he bowed out, and probably wisely so with everything he's got going on there. And he has nothing to prove anymore, right? I mean, he's proved it all over the years. He's one of the winningest show jumpers ever. So
he has nothing to prove.
No, and we wish him well. And hope he continues to ride and to get better. One other quick story. And the reason I bring this one up, we don't usually do loose horses, except this was where Jemmy lives. Our producer, Jemmy, lives in Boynton Beach, Florida. And I don't know if she was involved in this, but apparently there was a loose horse on Saturday morning on Aberdeen Drive and Haverville Road. It was a pony who apparently I didn't know there were any horses in Boynton Beach, to be honest, so it must have been somebody's backyard. I don't know. But according to the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, it took 2 hours for road deputies, mounted deputies, and animal control to corral the pony.
Whoa.
2 hours. It's been transported to animal control's facility to check it out.
So there's no owner. Nobody knows. It wasn't like somebody was like, hey, my pony got loose, and they're running down the road.
I saw the picture. This was a little pony. I mean, this little pony was probably darting in and out of yards and through driveways and parking lots. And he was like, you're not catching me.
Oh, my goodness.
They had time to get the mounted deputies there. That's how long this went on. Wow. So yeah, that was in Boynton Beach. I have to ask Jemmy if she was involved in that in any way, if that was at her place. But yeah, I didn't know there were any ponies down there. It's pretty built up in that area down there near Palm Beach. But it is right outside of Wellington. So maybe the pony went for a real, what do they call that in Australia? Walkabout.
Walkabout.
Yes, went for a real walkabout. Well, let's go to our first guest. She's our resident lawyer. Her name is Julie Fershtman, and she wrote a book that everybody will want to read if you're interested at all in equine law and horse sense, and that's what the name of the book was. Well, hi, Julie. Welcome back to the show.
Well, hello there. Thanks for having me back.
So a topic of conversation came up in our auditor room, which is kind of our listener private Facebook room. And the question came up that I haven't quite seen it worded this way. And this listener actually had a horse that did something. I don't know what the something was, but apparently the horse injured the barn owner where she was boarding the horse. And the barn owner blamed the owner of the horse, saying, this is your problem. And I've never heard that, where I always thought, because we ran a boarding stable, that if I brought horses in and they, one of those horses hurt one of us, which happened all the time, by the way, that it was our problem because we were running the boarding stable. This particular boarding stable owner was coming back at the owner of the horse saying, you brought me a dangerous horse to take care of. So this just was an interesting one that I'd never thought about before. So where do we go with this one?
This has happened before. There was a case out of Indiana. I think it was called Hardin versus Christie. Horse trainer was injured training someone's horse and sued the owner. And this was back before Equine Liability Acts, but case dismissed. And it was dismissed on the basis of assumption of risk. The court said, come on, you're a horse trainer. You know that there are risks. You know about what horses are capable of doing. Case thrown out. And that was years ago. More recently, a similar case, not by a trainer, but by a farrier who died while he was doing his job. And it was in California. He sued I think the horse owner or the facility where the horse was kept, and his case was thrown out on the basis of assumption of risk. The courts in California found it hard to sympathize with professionals in the industry who get hurt from typical risks associated with horses. Now, these are just two examples, but I've worked on a case like this too. There are a lot of different angles to look at it, and frankly, if you are a boarding stable, and you should expect these things to happen. Hopefully, you have health insurance, and you're okay. Now, let's do a little twist on this, Glenn.
Okay.
What if the boarder comes in and knows that this horse is a holy terror, and the very first day that the stable's, let's say, assistant comes in to remove the horse, to clean the stall, or take the horse out to the pasture, this horse turns his rump and within seconds starts kicking violently, and someone gets hurt. But the owner knew this and didn't tell anybody. That is a different situation, in my opinion, because this horse is effectively a weapon of destruction, and the owner knows it.
Dangerous weapon.
Weapon of mass destruction.
The mass destruction weapon. So one thing I recommend for stables is in your boarding contract, aside from a release from the boarder to you, which is different from what we're talking about here, have the boarder tell you if the horse has any unique propensities or risks. Get that information known for your own protection. And if you are the horse owner, even if you own the Holy Terror horse, would be worth it to consider purchasing a policy of personal horse owners' liability insurance. In addition, of course, to telling people, by the way, my horse is very dangerous. So these are just a couple of things that can be done. But yeah, this has been litigated, and I've been in the middle of these cases.
What happened? Are you allowed to say what happened in the trainer case you were dealing with?
Absolutely. The case I was dealing with involved a boarder who traded services for reduced board. She wasn't exactly a regular stable worker. And one day she was feeding a horse. It was a gelding, very docile in his 20s. He had heaves, the heaves respiratory condition. Mm-hmm. So he was kind of quiet and almost, so laid back. He kept away from people. For reasons unknown, however, when she was feeding him, he bit off her pinky finger. And I don't know why. And her argument was, well, he has heaves, so he's dangerous. But that never quite got anywhere. Where that went, though, is the stable had no release from her, for any boarders, for that matter. So when the lawsuit came in and I got it, I was looking for the stable's contracts and releases, which would be signed by boarders like this injured person. There wasn't one, so stables might want to consider it, as I mentioned. What ended up happening, though, is after getting information, testimony, the court refused to throw the case out, so the parties resolved it. The judge felt that the case needed to go to a jury. This was just before the Equine Liability Act was passed, so we're going back to the 90s, of course. And this is what happened. We resolved the case. But there was a certain amount of credit, if you will, given to the stable. Credit in a financial sense, because the horse was, just dealing with horses was a risk. And even this boarder who was trading services knew that the horse that bit her finger off had no history of biting. That was pretty significant. So that one got resolved. But nevertheless, there were expensive medical bills, and somebody had to pay that. And in this case, it was resolved. The stable was sued. Horse owner was sued by the boarder who was trading services. So as I mentioned, workers' comp is a good thing for the stable to have. A lot of stables don't do it. The horse owner can purchase, and they actually did in this case, personal horse owner's liability insurance. And that's a great protection for the horse owner. The injured worker, well, if the injured worker isn't sure if they're an independent contractor or an employee, they can have health insurance, or the stable can make sure they have it too. Sorry to make things a little complicated, but I will add one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say, hang in there, Glenn, let's say that the stable has workers' compensation insurance. And let's say the injured worker who was hurt from a boarded horse took advantage of that insurance and got their medical bills paid, lost wages, all those things that you get from workers' comp. That injured worker, believe it or not, can turn around and sue the horse owner whose horse caused the problem. So injured worker collects workers' comp, but under the law of many states, they can go after the one who caused the problem. So the horse owner is still at risk in these circumstances. Interesting scenario. Many feel that they'll get the injured worker gets workers' comp and they accept it and we're done. Not necessarily.
Jamie, by the way, I know what you're thinking about because we talk. It's post show on Fridays. What you're thinking about? We're going to talk about this again in the post show today because this directly relates to what we talked about. We're not getting into it now, but so
yeah. But see, when a dangerous horse comes to me, I know it's dangerous.
Sometimes,
here's the clue to me. So I train horses is what I do, Julie. And so this horse comes to me for training and it's another local trainer that sent me the horse. And I know that if another trainer is sending me a horse, it's bad.
It's got a problem.
It's bad. But there's nothing in writing about that. It's just my own intuition and experience that I've had, which is this is kind of how it goes. Now, it's a totally different thing when you're lied to, which is kind of a little bit of the situation, but we don't need to talk about that. Now it's not about me. It's all about these people. So say I have a boarder and I'm just the own employee. Like I run this farm. I have a boarder, and the boarder's horse hurts me. And they've signed a riding release, but what happens then?
They've signed a release that says they won't sue you, but that doesn't stop you, I suppose, from suing them. Well, a lot of factors.
But that comes back to what you were talking about, the assumed assumption of the assumed you're assuming that it's dangerous.
Yeah. So you've had that case, and that case was closed. So what happens if because they've signed a release saying they won't sue me. If they go out to get their horse and they get hurt by another horse in the pasture, I'm still safe if they've signed a release.
Well, as long as the release is enforceable, as we've talked about, I think, or we can make a topic for another show. Some things just plain can't be released away, and some states don't like releases. I should note, too, the two cases that I shared with you, the Hardin versus Christie, Indiana case of the trainer whose case got thrown out, and the Barrett versus Leach case out of California, where the Farrier's case got thrown out. Those states didn't have an Equine Liability Act. California still doesn't. Indiana didn't at the time. Now we'd be looking at the Equine Activity Liability Act. And there are some interesting exceptions we don't need to get into right now. But fair to say that the assumption of risk concept may have been kind of molded differently. The Equine Liability Act takes over now. It talks about inherent risks in many states, and then it talks about providing horses, failing to make reasonable and prudent efforts, things of that type, which may or may not apply here. So those statutes have made things a lot more complicated. I have had, and maybe this is what you were looking and asking about, I've had a few people call me over the years and hire me because they do have a holy terror horse, and they want people to know, from the horse hauler to the trainer to the assistants, this thing is dangerous, and they will have people sign a release. But it also includes a lot of disclosures about what this horse has been doing.
Yes, that would be. I would.
You need one of those, Jamie.
I would love to sign a release if somebody would disclose everything to me. That would be fantastic.
Well, that's the flip side then for trainers and stables, to open that dialogue and make it a requirement, a strict requirement, that all propensities and histories of the horse, anything unique, anything dangerous, be disclosed right now. And you leave the lines on that document to be filled out. And if it matters to you, you can take it a little further and say stable trainer or whoever has presented that paper is relying on the full compliance with this request or a full and complete response. So you're letting them know, hey, lay it on me. I'm ready to hear it from you. And it'll make clear to these people that candor and detail is what you want. So, that might be the way to protect yourself, among other things, like your own insurance, too.
Getting back to this original scenario where we had a boarder whose horse hurt the farm owner, and then the farm owner was coming back at her saying, pay the medical bills and stuff. And obviously what we're kind of saying here is that the farm owner probably doesn't have a leg to stand on. But practically, I mean, they can say to the boarder, get your horse the hell out of here tomorrow. There are things that the farm owner can do, and one is get the horse out of there. If he thinks that he or she thinks that the horse is dangerous to other people at the barn too. So, practically there's always a difference between things you can do practically and then things that go to court, right? I mean, you have two different scenarios there because, and in Florida, we have the signs you hang up that says basically there are horses here. You have to put it by the gate. And then one again at the barn. So there's two places in Florida we have to put it: by the gate where people come in to the property, and one at the barn. And, basically says anybody coming onto this property assumes a risk because there's horses here.
That is interesting, though. I'm really excited to hear about that. You know what? Like, you have to disclose everything to me. And I do have a form that people fill out. It's not legally binding. It's just like, hey, please tell me everything. You should have a training agreement. Yeah, no, I do. Okay. And that's what I'm saying. In this training agreement, it says, hey, tell me everything about the horses. And some people have not been completely honest, and that would put them in a liability state, I think.
Or would she have to have, tell me what's wrong about the horse and have that extra paragraph that says, if you don't, you're liable. Would that need to be in that agreement?
Your lawyer would have to be the one to deal with the details. But I think what you're talking about is a clause that says, we are not only relying on you, but we will, your failure to provide important details, if determined to be false, can give us grounds to make a claim against you. I guess the theory would be almost a fraud theory, fraudulent inducement. By telling you only a piece of the story, You said, hey, I'm game. I will enter into this training agreement. But you never would have done it had you known the true state of facts. So this
is
something
fraud, right?
that,
I mean, it really is fraud.
And that's why people don't disclose stuff, because they don't want you to not train their horse. But like, I had a doozy this past week.
Whoa.
So,
well, the problem too is if it ever goes into a court, the judge who doesn't know anything about horses has this perception in their mind, and that is, you're a trainer. Aren't you supposed to be dealing with problem horses? Don't go complaining to me, the judge, if you got hurt doing what you do. But, it's all a matter of degree. Some people love the bucking bronco kind of horses, and they love colt starting for that reason. I don't quite get it. And then there are others who want to deal with refining, polishing, and they want a horse that is less risky. So it's a matter of degree, and that means any contract, if you're going to be setting up a horse owner for potential fraud, really needs attention, and this is one that I strongly suggest that a lawyer draft.
And Jamie, I suggest you put in there that each limb of yours is worth $1 million, and your life is worth 10. You put that in there.
Good thing I'm not litigious. I would. Too bad though. I'd be a millionaire, and Julie would be my attorney.
Julie, this is fascinating stuff, and really, really interesting, and applies to everybody that owns a horse in one way or another, right? So. How you have a book? Tell us about the book, and where can people find that? And 2 books, right? You have 2 now.
Well, the latest one, and probably my last, is called Equine Law and Horse Sense. And yes, I've drafted other books by that name, but those were years ago. The new one was published by the American Bar Association. It's about 367 pages. Oh, wow. It includes a lengthy discussion, unlike any other book I've offered, about different liabilities, contract elements, and issues involving relationships like boarding and training, and how to avoid disputes. And then it ends with a discussion state by state of the Equine Liability Acts and how these statutes affect your contracts and what you do to comply. So I'm hoping the book is of use to many people. It doesn't include form contracts, but you understand why. What works in Florida may not work in California. Every state has differences.
Where do they find it, Julie?
Oh, thank you. Amazon.com. You can pull up Equine Law and Horse Sense. Look for the beautiful bay horse on the cover, and it's ready to be purchased.
All right, very good. And we'll put a link to that in our show notes, too, if you want to go purchase that book. Thank you, Julie. It's always fascinating and important that we have you on. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back.
All right. Send the bill to Jamie, Jamie, at horseradionetwork.com. She handles all our billing.
I'll add a few zeros.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, do that, Julie. Appreciate
Let's wrap this up. She charges by the minute. Bye.
Thanks again.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Julie.
Bye. Well, Cavallo track hoof boots are made for rain, streams, puddles, and mud. Along with incredible comfort, your horse's feet will enjoy maximum breathability, superior drainage, quick-dry boots that are always ready for your next ride. We use these on Scooter. I have for the last 8 years. My pony has never been shod, yet he's a driving pony, so we go out on the road, and most of the time, I'll put front boots on him. Sometimes if it's going to be rocky or we're going to a place that's a little off the beaten path and I don't know what the terrain's going to be, I'll put all 4 on him. But they fit perfectly. They have so many different sizes, from all the way from mini to draft horse sizes. And God, I've seen the draft horse ones, Jamie, and they are huge. They're just so big.
Wow.
They're huge. But these boots really do work. They last a long time. I recommend them. They don't twist around like some of the boots. They're put on with Velcro, and for some reason, the Velcro lasts forever. I don't know. They give you an extra Velcro, but I've never used the extra Velcro on any of them. These are definitely worthwhile. They have a lot of traction, and I really have had no trouble in the rain or mud or anything with these boots. I can't talk about snow. We live in Florida, so I don't know about snow. But check them out today, and you can get 20% off just for listeners of this show. It's cavallo-inc.com, and I'll put a link in our show notes, cavallo-inc.com. Use the coupon code HRN for 20% off your next order. So 20% substantial. HRN, cavallo-inc.com.
Okay, before we get to first world problems, I have a breaking news update.
What's that?
Okay, so you know how I told you I put digital software with this beautiful bay horse that was running at Belmont Park.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's it. Because he was one, there'd no lip chain on him. He was just like walking around. They had like a lead rope clipped his halter. Like he's just super chill walking around. I was like, oh my God, I love him. So digital software. So I'm like, I'm going to go find out who owns him. He came in second. So he might have a little bit more career. But if he's going to retire, I want to find him and I'm going to message the owner. Trained by Chad Brown. And the owner is a guy that runs Claravich Stables. So I look him up, Seth Klarman. He's like a multi-billionaire and he has over 100 horses in training with Chad Brown.
Miss one.
And well, I'm like, there's no way to get a hold of him. There's no way. He's a billionaire. It's like, let me just send a message to Jeff Bezos. Okay. It should be fine. This guy has had horses like bricks and mortar. I had a horse in the Derby. He's got like horses everywhere. He's ridiculous. I mean, he's had bricks and mortar, cloud computing, all of these crazy, like grade 1 stakes winner, Eclipse Awards finalist. And I'm just like, hey, my name is Jamie and I really think your horse is pretty. There's nowhere to get a hold of him. There's no Facebook page.
Sounds like a first world problem, Jamie.
Website. There's no nothing. Okay, play first world problems. I'll get it going. I'll get it started.
It's time for the weekly look at your equestrian first world problems. This ought to be good.
I mean, for real. Okay, so remember, equestrian first world problems are actual people's real problems that they have put together for the show. And so it's on Sundays or Monday mornings. I think it was Monday morning at 4 a.m. I posted it, and it was a post that's asking you to share your equestrian first world problems. It is in the Auditor's Facebook page. So if you want to contribute to equestrian first world problems, you become an auditor. Glenn, how do they do that?
Go to horseradionetwork.com, scroll down the right-hand side of the page, and click on the auditor banner. For as little as $3 a month, you can join the party.
And by the way, that $3 a month is helping everybody involved. So thank you for being a part of it. Anyway, so check this out. My equestrian first world problem is that the horse that I really thought was pretty that raced at Belmont Park is owned by like a multi-billionaire, and I can't get a hold of him because he's too famous.
I'll give you his number. Just tell me who it is. I'll send you the number.
I'm gonna make some calls today. Let me call this Billy. I'll tell him he's an investment guy, so I'll call his office and say I've got some money to invest.
I
and
have
they'll be
$10
like, really?
billion I need to invest tomorrow.
Or I'll be like, you know what? I have $37 and I would like to see what you can do with it. And by the way, I really like that horse digital software. By the way, how many of you have looked it up now? Just so you know, digital software, and the other one was, well, I can't remember his name, but that's the one I really liked. Okay, anyway, let's move on. Is that a thing? Okay, ready? Jillian says, my young horse was so good this weekend, did some really solid groundwork, and we nailed his second trail ride. But I spent so much time with him that I didn't have time to ride my other horse. We just have too many horses.
Too many horses.
Patty says we got our nicer pastures fence fixed. So now the horses have access to like more grass and like more living space. But it's far enough away that they don't just come to the barn. I have to like walk out there and call them.
Every time I go to get Jennifer's horse, which is in the back of the 11-acre farm, he's always in the farthest corner he can get to, and he just stares at me walking across the field. Like,
yes,
no!
She doesn't even have to walk, though. She actually has to call them twice a day to come in for grain. It's annoying. TJ said it was her horse's birthday yesterday, and she didn't even have time to throw him a birthday party. I'm planning a birthday party for an 8-year-old. So fun. Carrie says, I can't go horse camping that I had planned to go on. She said, I can't go on a horse camping weekend that I had planned in a few weeks because I have to go on an all expenses paid work trip to the Virgin Islands.
Who does that anymore? I thought there was no more all expenses paid trips for work.
To islands.
Wow.
I mean, I need to know. I feel like this has been her problem before, so I feel so sorry for her.
Tough job she's got there.
Jenna says, I had a beautiful custom brow band made for my elegant mare, and it's pink and burgundy clear crystals and matches my burgundy show jacket perfect. But I sold my mare, and it doesn't look good on my colt. Trust me, Stan Lee had his first halter was pink. His first blanket was the light purple. Like, it's just the way that it goes when you had everything bought for a filly and now you have a gelding. Elizabeth says shedding season is over and now it is show season and mowing season and I just can't keep up. Chad got a 0-turn lawnmower and what used to take him like a day.
So nice.
Oh my gosh.
You can
He's
fly
like,
with those things.
I'm going to go mow the 20 acres. I'll be back in 15.
Yeah, they're so nice. I can't believe he didn't have one before. Was he using a regular riding mower before?
But we had 3 acres in Arizona.
Oh.
And most of it was pasture. So he would just have a riding lawnmower for like
0
our little
turns worth every penny.
Oh my gosh, it's so nice. I'm afraid to drive it. I say it's nice. We have a tractor. I'm afraid to drive that too.
They're fun to drive.
Nothing is fun to drive except for, I don't know, a car. Anything else is scary. I won't let Chad drive a golf cart.
You're the only farm girl that doesn't drive a tractor. You realize that, right?
That's because here's the backstory on that. And Chad, you can be listening. I went to equine management school at the Kentucky Horse Park. It used to be called Kentucky Equine Institute. And every morning, somebody would have to drive the tractor and go dump the manure from when we mucked salts. That was part of school. Every morning, the teacher, the main instructor, would bring in an article about somebody dying because the tractor flipped over. And or losing a leg.
She was just trying to get you to be careful.
Exactly. Too far. You took it too far, Miss Stickney.
Yeah, people get killed in cars every day. You're not thinking about that. You're still driving your car around.
Listen,
this is no excuse. No excuse. Get on the damn tractor.
I am scared of the tractor. I feel like it's going to tip over. And when my husband drives a golf cart, I feel like that's going to tip over.
Well, you have a more likely chance, actually, that the golf cart with your husband driving will tip over.
Oh, he just yelled up, "You're so brave."
Here he is flying F-16s and you're worried about the golf cart.
Yes, opposites attract, baby. Opposites attract. He's the F-16 pilot. I'm afraid to
even training these crazy horses that will kill you in an instant and you're worried about the golf cart.
Your job is so much more dangerous than mine. I'm like, no, it's not. Okay, I love this one, Matt. Oh, you know what? I'm going to save Matt's for last because I think it's
we have time for 2 or 3 more.
Okay. Aaron says that spring arrived in Vermont, so we rode 20 miles this weekend. 20 miles, and I had a little knee pain, so now I have to order Stability stirrup leathers.
Our sponsor thanks you.
Yes, exactly. Anna says it's finally warm here in Minnesota, but now I need to go buy sunscreen because my trainer tan lines are already terrible. Let's see.
By the way, we're supposed to hit 100 next week.
No.
Yes.
Well, you're
in May.
Like super rainy here. It's May here. Two more. Chelsea says, I have a whole week off of work and after the most horrendous tax season ever. Oh, wait, let me start over. I have a whole week off of work after the most horrendous tax season ever. And I don't know which pony I want to ride and drive.
We know what she does for a living.
Yup. And then finally, Matt. Oh, Matt, the irony is strong in this one. He says, I got a big horse tattoo on my chest yesterday, and now it's hurting feeding the horses this morning because my tattoo is sore. Fantastic.
That tattoo on his chest. That's making a statement.
Here's the thing, Matt. Photos or it didn't happen. Okay. Thank you.
Do you have to shave your chest before you get the tattoo?
I don't because I don't have chest hair.
I wonder if you do. Matt, I want to know, do you have to shave first? I would think.
They shave at all the places.
Oh, do they?
They have to disinfect
I never got a tattoo. I don't know these things.
Well, it's about time.
Does it hurt like hell after? I imagine. Why do you think I never got a tattoo? I have enough pain in my life. I don't need that.
I have a very tiny tattoo and it's like a very tiny outline and then it was colored in and it hurt so bad I had to come back for the color and it's literally an inch long and it hurts. It felt like here's what getting a tattoo feels like. And some people like it and those people are weird. Those people also like driving tractors. It feels like somebody put a razor blade in your skin, like plunged it in and just slowly started cutting.
Yeah,
that is what it feels
addicted
like.
To that.
Yeah, I know. And God love them. They're tougher than I am.
I've had enough pain in life. I don't need any more. All right, let's go to DeAnn from Horse Nation for her visit.
You need a tattoo. Glenn needs a tattoo. You guys send him some photos.
Yeah, send it to Jamie at horseradionetwork.com.
Of the appropriate, you know what? I'm going to put a post on the Horses in the Morning Auditors Facebook page and say, hey, what's your suggestion for tattoos for Glenn? Because you're going to get one.
It's Monday. That means it's time for Horse Nation to stop by with some cleverly written horse stories. Or just some silly nonsense.
It's that time again where we welcome DeAnn from Horse Nation to the show. Hello, DeAnn.
Hello. How are you today?
I am good. I think Glenn picked out an article because I think he thinks we're going to argue about it, but we might not argue about it. It's an article that you wrote called and this is on horsenation.com, Let Your Child Lose, Teaching Sportsmanship. Tell us a little bit about the article.
Yeah. So my oldest daughter had her first little hunter jumper schooling show a couple weeks ago. And let me just a little bit of background. She's done some fun shows on a pony before where there weren't very many people in her class. So everybody got a ribbon and whatever. This was her first show where it was a big enough class that not everybody's going to pin. And, and she's done various sports, but we totally live in this participation trophy atmosphere. So of course she's always gotten medals and ribbons, whatever. So this is really her first experience with not necessarily getting a prize for being there. Which I totally support, by the way. I'm very big on.
That's how we grew up,
on things, right?
When did that participation thing start? 10, 15 years ago, maybe.
After the 80s, for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't my time either. I lost a lot. I don't think I knew how to win. I think that I never really figured that out.
I'm gonna give you a little, just before we get into the article a little deeper, the perspective of what it was like in my house.
Yeah.
And so I went to my first horse show. With everything about this article, except for your children wearing masks, was very similar. And it was one of those horse shows where there's 7 people in every class and they pen to 6, so there's one person. And it was my first show and I didn't know what I was doing. And I was 7th in every single class. But of course, Daddy had written a check because I was freaking 9. And I come home and I walk in the door. My mom comes in with me. And my dad goes, well, where's that big truckload of ribbons I paid all that money for? And I could see my mom going, the whole cut,
ixnay on the
and that is the experience that I had. So how was it for your daughter?
I could picture myself saying the same thing if I had kids. I probably would have said the same thing.
Well, that's because you and my dad are morons. So and insensitive. Go ahead.
Hoping you're going to hear my dog yawning behind me. But so here's the thing. And I walk in I don't believe in participation awards. You have to earn it, blah, blah, blah. But, standing there watching your kid not get her number called and her little face, even behind the mask, just falling, you can see the heartbreak. And, I can logically be no, this is good for her. This is what I believe all I want. But watching it's really, really hard.
Oh my God.
And especially my oldest is pretty fragile. she struggles with feelings, having a lot of them in general. So of course it's this kid.
The new term for that is she's sensitive.
Yeah, she's sensitive, and poor thing has me as a mother, and I'm I don't know, you're fine.
Shake it off, walk it off,
rub some dirt on it, and move on. But it was. I felt so bad for her, but I really, as I walked away, I really was this is one of the best things for her. She really, and I wasn't just doing sour grapes. We didn't want the ribbon anyway. I really spent some time thinking about it. I was this is, you have to learn to lose to learn to be a good winner, and I think, and also to learn to try harder next time. And of course we had a conversation when we got home and she was still upset where she was why do I even have to post on the right diagonal anyway? That's dumb. And my mom didn't help, who we had horses when we were growing up, but backyard owners, who was well, aren't you trotting on like some diagonal, even if it's the wrong diagonal? Like you're getting out of the way of some hip. And I was like, Mom, I finally was like, look, it's because they say it's what's right. Like that was after trying to explain, like after getting out of the way of like the inside hip and blah, blah, blah. And they both stared at me blankly. And I finally was like, it's a judged event, except that this is the rule.
I like that. That's so crazy. So you're like, listen, you have to do this because that's what you do in showing. And your mom's like, I know, right? Posting is stupid.
Mom, you're not helping.
So she's probably the one who's in charge
I like
of
your
the
mom.
participation ribbons. Like, no, I get it though. So my son does karate.
Okay.
And he has tested now has had to go to 8 tests for a belt. And they have to do all these certain things completely 100% correct, or they don't get the scores to pass the test. But the very end of it is they have to spar, which is they put on the headgear and the hand things and the foot things, and they basically beat the ever living crap out of each other and like get points for it. And
every little boy's dream right there.
Yeah. But some of them, like he this last test last weekend, this kid came in, it was not karate. It was like his kid was throwing haymakers over the hand, like arms coming up, and I'm just like, that's not fair. He's not doing it right. And the sensei is like, could you please sit down? Like, and I'm like, but he's throwing wrong punches. He's not even doing karate. He just hit my baby in the face and looking loud. Like, are you crying? Come here, baby. Come here. I'm so sorry. That kid's so mean. He's the worst. I'm like, go out there and kick his butt, you know? And like you said, but then the sensei after the
Karate
test,
Kid in the first one here.
yeah, knees up, Danielson. So I like at the end, the next day when I came in, he was like, okay, so I think we need to talk about sometimes
boundaries.
letting the kids fail and letting them lose and letting them get punched because they learn to not give up. They learn to keep going. If they're going to give up, this is not the sport for them. And your kid is going to learn to get up, shake it off, and keep going. And I'm like, but he was hurt. So like, I get it. Like, I want to be that cool parent like you were, but like, I'm still a big softie, and I want my baby to like have a good experience.
Well, and I even said in the article, I go, because like watching it, I even had this moment of like, oh, it's the first show, like maybe participation ribbons would be good just this once. And then I was like, who am I? Like, not and you know, and I will say that like, you know, my daughter then like came with me to my barn and was like riding my horse a little bit. And I tell you what, she was getting the correct diagonal more than she was. I saw her checking and trying to fix it. And, you know, and she's little and she's just starting. And even though she doesn't always know what she's looking for, but I'm like, okay, like, there you go. So now we're trying harder. Now we're working harder. Like, those are the important things. Like, that's the lesson you want.
Yeah. I got to tell you though, I'm going to come from the other side because I played some sports and I never won anything. So there's that side too, and that's kind of demoralizing. When, you know, I'd come in second, but in wrestling, occasionally I would win by luck. But most of the time I was getting my ass kicked.
Is it coming second in wrestling?
Yeah, that's not good either. Yeah, so tennis I did a little bit better at, but yeah, so it's kind of depressing to be on the other side of that too.
You know, it's sad to be a parent. And I struggle, but I will say with like my oldest especially, she's the type of kid, like she played basketball this year and there was this team that just had like a better skill set than hers. So it was never like her team just wasn't going to beat them. And that's fine. But she's the kid who comes away rather than being like, oh, wow, that team was really good. She comes away and she's like, oh, they cheated. And I was like, I actually just think they got more baskets than you did. And so like for her, I feel like kind of having those discussions, and I'm not trying to be like all morally superior here. It's just like something that I sat with after the fact that I was like, you know what, like she needs this. Like this kid doesn't get anything out of going and, you know, getting a ribbon because she was there. Like she needs to sort of have this discussion and realize that there are certain things that are like that you can control and that you can work for. And even more importantly, that like someone else's success does not necessarily mean that they like didn't earn it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this article is very good. It is an interesting read for sure. Horsenation.com is where you can find it. And yeah, it's just being a parent is hard. And I understand the participation ribbons because you do want your little baby to have a good time. But yeah, you're right. You just have to just go, you know what? That's part of it. And the ones that do say, well, they cheated. No, that's not. Like that kid who was throwing haymakers at my kid, he was totally cheating.
But like sometimes you can only control what's within your control, right? Like you can't control the other person. You can control your
reaction. I love
reaction.
that the sensei called you out on it.
Totally. And I was like, he was cheating, but you know what? I didn't say that to my kid. I wasn't like, oh my God, he was cheating. You're right. I was like, no, he just was a little aggressive and he got it done. But in my head, I'm like, that little bastard cheating.
You know what? Here's a question. I thought like when you sparred in karate or like other like organized fighting, I thought they like called you out for penalties, or is that not a thing?
They do. So they'll be like break, they'll sub break. And then this kid, every time he would say, the sensei would say break, he would like throw like an overhand punch on the top of his head or in the face. And so that's what I talked to the sensei about, because I was like, come on, like that's ridiculous. And he was like, sometimes they don't hear the break. And I'm like, he heard it. Like I had him.
I like you were sparring with the sensei who could like take you out with one little punch.
He trained with Chuck Norris and he's old now. I can beat him up. Yeah, it's true.
You say that.
And this kid is going to be the bully on the bus, the one he was fighting against. He's going to be the bully on the bus. I mean,
he was, and Lucas is going to have to learn to deal with people like that, and hopefully just learn to block. That's what I told him. I was like, you know what, you need to learn to block those and come back, and with something else. So yeah, there was definitely
the whole
there's a
Karate Kid
referee
thing,
in there.
The whole movie just flashed before my eyes.
That's exactly what it is.
So
exactly.
Wait, so did you set up a tree stump in your backyard for Lucas to like balance on and like?
Does he have to wax the car? Wipe on, wipe off.
I got to take him to the beach. So he can stand on the pier. On one leg.
Oh, it was the pier. I was like tree stump, pier, whatever.
That's great. That's
Thank you, DeAnn.
You know what? We got to work harder. I can't use it. Paint the fence, Lucas. Paint the fence.
Bye, DeAnn. Thank you. HorseNation.com.
Bye.
All right, we've run out of time for today. Hang on for the post show. It's going to be a follow-up to Friday's post show. For all of you that listen to that, you're going to want to listen to this. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will be here tomorrow with the Certified Horsemanship Association episode, and then later in the week, we have fox hunting coming up, and Jamie's going to be here all week, so we have a full week of shows for you. And we appreciate you stopping by. You can catch all of the past episodes of Horses in the Morning on our website at horsesinthemorning.com. We have 20 different shows we do on Horse Radio Network as well. So go to Horse Radio Network. 20. And then scroll down the homepage and you'll see all the different shows. If you can't find one you like there, you don't like horses, because we got
listen to Retired Racehorse Radio. That's me enjoy.
That's a good one. Jamie does that one. It's very popular, so you're going to listen to that one as well. Thank you to Chem and Equine for being our title sponsor today. We appreciate them. And that's it. Hold on, auditors.